Sports Scene with Greg Bicouvaris is now on the Audacy app and Audacy.com.
Now, it's time for Sports Scene with Greg Bicouvaris. Here's your host, Greg Bicouvaris.
And welcome to Sports Scene with Greg Bicouvaris, available on the Audacy app and wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube and social media. We've had him on Sports Scene over the years. We've had him on Sports Highlights. Let's welcome Tony Lombardi from Russell Street Report. Tony, how are you?
I'm doing well, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Give us your full title. You've had so many different tweets and shows over the years. What exactly is your main theme today?
My main focus is Russell Street Report, which covers the Ravens. This is our 20th season, Greg. So we've been at it for quite a while, and we focus on the Ravens, cover the salary cap, cover free agency, cover the X's and O's with some film study and whatnot. So we dive pretty deeply into the Ravens, and it's RussellStreetReport.com.
Yeah, I've known you for 20 years, too. I've been working Ravens games at least one a year since 2003, so I've known you pretty much that entire span. Well, let's get right into it. First of all, let's talk about all the coaching vacancies. I guess I'm a little surprised by Belichick. Not too surprised. I figured he'd do one more year, and then Vrabel at Tennessee. Those are the two biggest surprises, in my opinion.
Well, it looked like Belichick was going to be moving on for a while. It just seemed to be falling apart. There needs to be a change of I guess the way they run their personnel in New England. They've been struggling with that for a while, so they needed to have some new personnel guys in there. And Bill is a guy that has had such control for such a long period of time that you wonder if he's ready to relinquish those GM duties. So I think a change was kind of teed up there. As the one that surprised me the most is Pete Carroll in Seattle. That was a shocker to me because it doesn't sound like, if you listen to Pete's interview, that he really wanted to move on. I think he had some unfinished business. I know he's, 73 or 74, but he still has the energy of a 60-year-old man. So I think that was the most shocking one of them all.
Yeah, here's the thing that those two, Belichick and Carroll, are going to be facing. They're both in their 70s, and who's going to want to hire them for 1 or 2 years, maybe 3, then start all over again? That's going to be the biggest thing. And I did post on Facebook this morning, it's ironic that Belichick was born in Nashville, and, of course, the Titans have an opening. I don't know how that will play out, but still, he might want to go back home again. You never know.
I did not know that Belichick was born in Nashville because everybody keeps talking about how he's from Annapolis.
Born in Nashville.
Interesting. But, I think you're right. You're on point with them being of the age that they are, and, what kind of regime are they going to introduce to a new club? I think that they would almost have to have a succession plan in place at the very start.
Right. But, you have to remember, all those that have power are afraid to lose it. Belichick, of course, like you said, he had all the power there for 24 years, won several Super Bowls, and, of course, really didn't listen to anybody, didn't have to. And, of course, Kraft gave him total power as well.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. I'm pretty sure one job he's not going to take is the University of Alabama.
And that's his good friend, too, as well. Saban.
Right.
I mean, just so many different openings, but we mentioned Belichick and Carroll, both in the 70s, so there are no spring chickens, and you have to wonder, I mean, you might see a team take a chance, the Commanders supposedly like Belichick a lot, but, Belichick, like we said, is in his 70s. How many people like to move in the first place, let alone has been set in the community there in Massachusetts? And you have to really wonder, I mean, once you play it all out, he could still do TV, although he's never glib on his press conferences, but still, he might not want to do the grind anymore. We really never know because he's extremely private.
This is true. And I'll add one other thing, too, that he has some family. His son is married to a girl in the Baltimore area, and they've been living in New England. But if they were to move closer to Baltimore, I think that would probably give them some comfort for, how they manage their family and their young children.
Yeah, I look at that too. When Shanahan came to Washington, that was great too. He won a couple Super Bowls, but it never really panned out. So just because you go to a team, the problem with Washington is the culture. But proximity, of course. He likes lacrosse. He goes to the Naval Academy a lot. So you never know. But again, it's Father Time, and Father Time doesn't have any defeats at all.
That's true.
All right, let's get right to the Ravens here. Of course, they're off this week, well-deserved. They went 13-4, but had a great season. Everything seems to be clicking. But as you know, Tony, as a longtime observer of the Ravens, they have not had a great postseason after they won the Super Bowl in 2012. From 2013 to 22, there were a lot of misses, and there were also a lot of first-round exits.
No question. Even like back to Joe Flacco, the couple of years that they seem to be doing okay offensively. The defense failed them with injuries at cornerback and whatnot. I remember the one game, I think it was in 2014, or at least the 2014 season. They were up in New England. They had 2 touchdown leads and blew both leads to lose that game. So, and in the Lamar Jackson era, I think that they're 1-3 in the playoffs. And that's something that sticks in Lamar's craw. It's something that he's heard. He's heard all of those criticisms, and that serves as a chip on his shoulder. He wants to prove all those naysayers wrong, to show that he's developed as a quarterback and that his game translates better now to the postseason than it did before.
I think you're exactly right. And all the talk of MVP, you can kind of tell by his body language, it really doesn't mean anything to him. He's going to be focused on who they're going to play next week.
And as a fan of the team and even observers of the team, you have to admire that in a guy. Here's the entire country's throwing all these accolades at him and how great he's been in 2023, and he's not listening to a single one of those people. He's just focused on winning the Super Bowl, and it harkens back to that when Deion Sanders took him aside after the Ravens made him the 32nd pick in the 2018 draft and asked him a few questions, and he said, they're going to get a Super Bowl out of me. You can believe that. So that's something that just burns in Lamar, and until he hoists that Lombardi trophy, I don't think he'll be satisfied with anything he does on the field.
We're talking to Tony Lombardi from Russell Street Report. This is Sports Team with Greg Bicouvaris on the Audacy app, wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube and social media. And, of course, he did play 1 year with Joe Flacco, who's now doing a great job with the Browns late in his career. How ironic is that? Flacco did win the Super Bowl, and he's still in the postseason himself.
He's in a really good situation. That's almost a perfect fit for Joe because, what did Joe always do? It was the play action, that having that running game to support the passing game was always something that he, thrived in, that kind of atmosphere. And then he also is complemented by a really good defense. So he's in a really good spot, and it almost seems to be like a Disney-like film, Greg, that Joe Flacco is going to end up in Baltimore to play for the AFC Championship somehow.
You never know, too. But, of course, the Browns needed some positive news. They had a lot of bad news, as you know, with their quarterback situation off the field the last few years. So this is really good news. And, of course, the Steelers made it. 3 teams in the AFC North did make it. They're taking on the Bills. Short trip there. Of course, Packers, Cowboys, Rams, Lions. That'll be interesting to see how that quarterback reunion takes place over there, and of course the Eagles and the Buccaneers. But the one game that's getting a lot of criticism because it's on Peacock on a Saturday night with 2 of the hottest teams over the course of the season. Of course, the Ravens took care of the Dolphins, but the Chiefs and the Dolphins on a streaming network that has low visibility. Not many people even know it. Peacock, of course, NBC has that Peacock logo. That's about all people even know about this. Amazon has been 50-50, Tony, as far as audio and video, in my concern. It's not been great, stellar broadcasting. But this is going to be interesting, a high-profile game at night. People might not want to go to a bar, and they're stuck, maybe not able to watch it.
Yeah, I think I saw that 9% of the country has the Peacock app. That's so 91% of the country does not. And I know they're trying to entice people to do it. You can cancel a week later without any charge. But I think it's that America in general just doesn't like to give up their credit card information for something they're going to cancel anyway. They don't trust it. And this is the thing I'm hearing most from fans is that hasn't the NFL made enough money? Do they have to keep gouging fans that have supported them all year long? and you're in the business. I mean, I'd be interested in your take on this.
Well, it's over $100 million for this type game. I mean, the networks make billions of money on TV deals, not to mention the playoffs are a cash cow, but they want to put a high-profile game. It's ironic Taylor Swift is a fan of the Chiefs. Her significant other, we won't say how their husband, wife, whatever. I don't like saying false information. Let's just say her boyfriend plays for the Chiefs. But, Tony, the weather is going to be freezing. It's going to be like in the low teens, low digit numbers. What fan in their right mind would want to be out there for 4 to 5 hours at night sitting idle? I mean, that's just scary.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal, but it harkens back to the classic games. Think about the Dallas Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers in the Ice Bowl at Lambeau Field. So there's a historical connection with those kinds of games. So I happen to have a Peacock, so I will be watching the game. But, Greg, when you mentioned the bars and whatnot, I don't know that all bars even have that app. And you might think that, you walk into any bar and there's a TV, there's going to be a football game on, but it might not be because they might not have that app, or maybe they charge more for that app for a public establishment. So all those things are at risk right now, and they're forcing fans to buy this app if they really want to watch the game.
Yeah, Peacock is paying a reported $110 million to the NFL for the right to stream Saturday's playoff game. So we'll see how that evolves. Most of the bars have Amazon, and I'm not a big fan of Amazon. I saw one game this year on Amazon, but this will be interesting. Like you said, low profile Peacock carrying a big profile game.
We'll see how they handle it, but I agree with you. Amazon, particularly like their pregame and halftime crew, I'm not a big fan of with their presentation on Amazon at all.
No, really not, to me, not network level. In your opinion, who is John Harbaugh looking at now? His brother just won the national championship. Congratulations to Jim. Obviously, the entire family is a great family tree. I've met his parents before at a Ravens game. But who does he look to play against? What is he scouting right now?
Well, they're familiar with most of the teams in the playoff games, having played most of them. But, they look at, like, the Texans, for instance. The Texans could very well be playing in Baltimore next week if they happen to knock off the Browns. And if they do, the Texans team that they'll see is a lot different than the one they opened up with in the 2023 season. So they're probably spending a little bit of time focusing in on those guys, see how that offense has evolved with C.J. Stroud. So, what they're going to be ready for is anybody. I just think this team has a really nice blend of young talent and veteran leadership, guys like OBJ, guys like Jadeveon Clowney, Kyle Van Noy. They all bring some kind of measure of leadership, and they've been there before. That helps this team, I think, become a stronger mindset on the team as they approach these playoff games than they had in the past.
Yeah, this weekend there are 6 games, including Monday. Next week, of course, obviously we're down to the final 4, of course, before the championship round. But I kind of wonder where the Ravens will play at, Tony, Saturday or Sunday. My gut feeling is Sunday because I know CBS has a college basketball game at noon on the 21st, but you never know what network might pick it up.
You're right. And so I think that, what I generally look at it is the Ravens have had all this time off, so maybe they slot them in on a Saturday. But I think they also have to be mindful out of fairness to the team that they play. If a team played on Sunday and they play them, why force them to play on a Saturday on a short week and not, fully rested? I think that's an unfair advantage.
Yeah, not to mention the NFC team, the Eagles and the Buccaneers, they're playing Monday night, so they're even going to have a shorter break. But overall, as far as the Ravens' great year, it seems like Harbaugh is just, with all these coaching vacancies, it seems like he has no desire to step down or retire or go into the sunset, even if he does win the Super Bowl.
No, I think that John just enjoys it too much. I would say he's the straw that stirs the drink of the culture that the Ravens have, and it's quite an enjoyable culture for both veterans and young guys. You never hear anybody say things badly about the Ravens, even former Ravens that maybe guys that were considering coming to the Ravens, they'll consult with those guys to see, what was your experience like in Baltimore? And it's pretty much unanimously a positive experience. And I think John's, center point, with that kind of thing, because I think that he just invites this family-like atmosphere that the players attach themselves to. Not only does he have the players in mind, he has their families in mind. That goes a long way with the players.
great personality, and he wins. He wins. I know he wants to evolve deeper in the playoffs. Billick won a Super Bowl too, and you don't hear much about him at all anymore. But people always talk about the Steelers' 3 coaches. Of course, there were coaches before Chuck Noll, but the Ravens have only had 3 coaches in their history as well.
Right. It was March Broda, Billick, and now John Harbaugh. And there's been a lot of talk about a succession plan for John. What's going to be the future for him? I just think he's just got coaching in his veins, Greg, and I don't know that he's going to let go of that anytime soon. But there's some people, there's some fans, even media guys that really like Mike Macdonald, the Ravens defensive coordinator. He's one of those young upstart guys, really intelligent, very analytical, modern day thinking to the NFL, and he's being courted by a few other teams right now. So that's something that people were saying, can they structure some sort of graduation plan for Mike Macdonald, similarly to what they did with Eric DeCosta when he was the understudy for Ozzie Newsome as the GM. But I don't think the coaches and GM's positions work quite the same way. So I think that's a difficult thing for Macdonald to do. But I will say this, as Macdonald goes to another organization, he's going to want to have an organization that has a lot of the things that the Ravens have, because it just creates stability, it creates a family culture, and it helps to have invite people to become part of that culture. So he's going to want to have a strong organization if he's going to make that move, because I think he already knows that if he wants to hang around as the defensive coordinator, that job will be his at some point in time as the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, and of course, Ozzie helped with that culture too, but Harbaugh is only 61. He's very young compared to some of these coaches that have been released or let go or moving on, whatever. And speaking of defense, how about your former defensive guy there, Wink Martindale? All types of drama with the Giants. I mean, we've all worked around toxic people, Tony, but obviously there was no love lost there.
Yeah, that's an interesting situation. I know that the Ravens handled that a little bit differently. I don't think there was as much toxicity in the Ravens and Wink parting ways. But, Wink is really tight with the Ryans, and we know that they can be combustible personalities. Mm-hmm. And I think that Wink, not only in his personality, but also in the way he coaches is very similar to the Ryans. So, I'm not shocked by this. When I heard that he had 2 defensive assistants that were let go, I don't think that was his doing, and that probably ticked him off a little bit too.
Yeah, there was already some fire and ice during the season. People were asking Daboll, who in my opinion has done a really good job the last couple of years, but we'll see how that plays out. Your final thoughts on Wild Card Weekend?
Well, there's always seems to be an upset or two, Greg. And, I look at, if you look at the games, the Browns and the Texans, I think the Texans are a different team than they were when the Browns played them earlier this year. I could very well see the Texans winning that game. The game in Kansas City, the Chiefs, you always want to think that they're this team that they used to be, but they're not. But Miami is so banged up. I just can't see them with all the nicks and bruises that they have going into Kansas City and winning. And then you've got the Eagles and the Bucs. I don't know what the Eagles team is anymore. It seems like they're falling apart, so that game could go either way. The Cowboys and the Packers, I think, is a really interesting one, because the Packers are really starting to develop some confidence. I think some of their strengths play to the Cowboys' weaknesses, and I think that's going to be a really close game. I do think Dallas will prevail, but I think it'll be a lot closer than most people think. Which one am I leaving out?
What about the Steelers-Bills?
Oh, Steelers-Bills. I don't think that's a game at all. I think that the Bills will just skull drag those guys. I think it could be something like 31-10.
But, congratulations to Tomlin to getting them in that position. And finally, the Rams and Lions quarterback swap there.
Yeah, that's a real interesting game too. And the Lions, you never know what you're going to get with them, because you never know what you're going to get from Jared Goff in a big game. Sometimes he lays an egg, sometimes he plays well. But I think the Rams are a sleeper this season. They've really come on lately. They've got some young guys back that are performing well. Their running game's there. Their passing game's there. Stafford has been on fire. I know you said you were at the Rams-Ravens game. Mm-hmm. He was insanely good that game. I mean, just no-look passes and just dropping dime after dime. I think that the Rams could take out the Lions, because obviously Stafford's comfortable playing in that environment.
And not to mention it was rain and bad weather. The Ravens generally play in bad weather in December and January. Tony, all the best to you, my friend. Happy New Year to you and your family, and good luck with everything at the Russell Street Report. Leave us with all your Twitter and social media. Well, on Twitter you can find me at RSR Lombardi, and you can find our website at Russell Street Report. It's Russell, Russell,
ST Report. And that's where you can find most of our articles. We distribute them all the time on Twitter. Same acronyms for Instagram as well.
Tony, all the best to you, my friend, and we will talk to you down the road.
Thanks so much for having me, Greg.
My pleasure. Tony Lombardi from Russell Street Report. Stay tuned. Sakura Sushi Bar is now open in Virginia Beach. For one-of-a-kind dining experience, Sakura in Red Mill is a favorite of locals and tourists. Tasty sushi prepared fresh for you, as well as delicious entrees from the kitchen. This is the go-to place for sushi lovers. Enjoy lunch and dinner daily with some refreshing cocktails and adult beverages. Sakura Sushi Bar is located at 2137 Upton Drive and is open daily. Call 757-522-7288 and enjoy your next meal at Sakura Sushi Bar at Red Mill Commons. Matinee Gallery consults for museum acquisitions and investment art for private and public collections in Virginia and elsewhere. They are specialists in Southern art and photography, international contemporary, and Virginia colleges. For more, log on to lindamatineegallery.com.
Mi Hogar is your restaurant for the finest Mexican cuisine in Hampton Roads. At Mi Hogar, everything is prepared fresh in a casual and comfortable atmosphere. Enjoy traditional favorites such as quesadillas, tacos, burritos, and fajitas, as well as refreshing beverages. Mi Hogar is located at 4201 Granby Street and is a tradition in Norfolk. Call 640-7705 and log on to MiHogarMexicanRestaurant.com. At Mi Hogar, there's something for everyone.
Outback Steakhouse in Kempsville and Virginia Beach open daily for lunch and dinner. Mike and the staff will take good care of you. Burgers, steaks, salads, appetizers, desserts, and much more. Great atmosphere, nice bar, spacious dining room. 1255 Fordham Drive in Virginia Beach. Thank you for listening to Sports Scene. Always great to connect. At Greg Bick on YouTube. That's GREGBIC. Subscribe. Also Greg Bick on Twitter as well. For more, go to gjbtv.com, hrsmhof.com, and hamptonroadsonlinemall.com. Also connect with me on LinkedIn, Greg Bicouvaris, and also Facebook, Greg Bicouvaris as well. Sports Scene with Greg Bicouvaris is on the Audacy app and Audacy.com. Thank you. At Mi Hogar Restaurant in Norfolk, they have Mexican pozole, chicken or pork soup. It is delicious at Mi Hogar. Hi, this is Greg Bicouvaris, inviting you to listen to my podcast Sports Scene by going to YouTube and typing Greg Bick. That's GREGBIC. Sports Scene is an informative interview show featuring local, regional, and nationally acclaimed guests. We do a fun segment called What Teased Me Off as well. For more, log on to gjbtv.com, subscribe to Greg Bick on YouTube, and follow me on Twitter at Greg Bick. Sports Scene with Greg Bicouvaris is on the Audacy app and Audacy.com.
So, what's Greg's problem?
I'm very mad!
God, I'm so mad right now!
I know you're mad. I know you're upset.
It's time for What Teased Greg Off.
All right, what teased me off from our good friends at Chick-fil-A in Chesapeake and Edinburgh. Go by and see Patty right there for great breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And, of course, the great chicken sandwich, salads, soups, great desserts, something for everyone at Chick-fil-A in Edinburgh, open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner Monday through Saturday. Can people who hide behind holidays and use it as an excuse?
Oh, yeah, they're just kicking the holiday can down the road. Get in touch with me later.
We all have to work extra no matter what job we do. God forbid bankers work at 5:01 Monday through Thursday looking at you like, why are you walking in here at 4:50?
And they get absolutely every holiday, even ones you haven't heard of.
Absolutely.
Sorry, we're closed today.
Yeah. You know, Ken, we all have those pens that run out of ink. No matter how you look at them or touch them, they break immediately.
Oh, yeah, especially those promotional pens. When people, like if you were to get a Sports Scene pen and get the cheapest possible ones you can, and they last once, and then you throw them in the garbage.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm not saying you would do that. I'm just saying, for instance.
Oh, I probably would do it. Ken, you know this. Working with toxic people, even if it's part-time.
Toxic people are toxic people. You don't even have to talk to them, and you know they're toxic because you just get this feeling.
Get that stare.
Yeah.
Ken, you know this. Stuck on the tunnel, no matter what tunnel or bridge in Hampton Roads you're stuck on. It's late, it's rush hour, whether morning or afternoon. You're hungry, you're out of gas, and you have to go to the restroom.
Well, you know, enough said. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Ken, what teased you off?
I've got two for you, Greg. when your roommate or spouse or significant other doesn't screw the cap for the orange juice or any liquid on all the way. Then when you go to shake it, it ends up going all over everything. It doesn't even have to be off. It could just be a little off kilter. And here's one that just drives me crazy. When you're eating with a group of people and the person next to you begins to tell a story, and maybe it's not that interesting, maybe they're going on too long, and others at the table begin to stop paying attention and talk amongst themselves, and you wind up being the only person still listening, and you're stuck because you'd be incredibly rude to stop listening at that point.
How about this last one? Going to a neutral party or an event, and you run into people that really you don't like or have to have small talk with. That's awkward.
Oh, good to see you.
All right, let's move on with Sports Scene. This segment is brought to you by Linda Matney Art Gallery. Go by and see John Lee Matney and the great staff right there, where art comes alive in Williamsburg. Always great exhibits, great shows, excellent website as well, lindamatneygallery.com. Give them a call at 757-675-6627. And of course, they are on Facebook, Linda Matney Gallery. Fine art, exquisite art. Don't let art vanish in Williamsburg. Right there at Linda Matney Art Gallery, the premier art gallery in Hampton Roads in Virginia is the Linda Matney Art Gallery. They are on social media. And welcome back to Sports Scene with Greg Bicouvaris. Glad you're with us on the Audacy app and YouTube and wherever you get your podcast as well. It's a pleasure to talk to George McLean from the Marksman and Newport News. George, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Greg. Hope everything's going well so far.
So tell us what's new in January. It's a brand new year, and of course, the staff is always evolving.
Well, we're off to a good start. Stock is staying up. We're able to get most things now of what we want and what the customers want. So anything that you want that we don't have in stock, it's getting a little bit easier to special order and getting what you order. Where in the past we had some issues from manufacturers of getting the right firearms out. They now seem to have increased their staffing levels and production levels back, getting close to what they were pre-COVID. So that helps us a lot.
George was with the Marksman Firearms Training Center and Indoor Shooting Range at 520 Industrial Park Drive in Newport News, not too far from Yorktown. Phone number is 872-4130. Of course, you have to dial the area code first, 757. Google the Marksman, like them on Facebook. George, before we get into the meat and potatoes of the store, what's going on with the NRA right now?
Well, I guess quite a bit. Your guess is as good as mine. I think some of the left wingers have kind of lowered the boom. So I know management is changing, and that's somewhat to be expected. They've been under quite a bit of pressure for the last several years. So I guess a lot coming to fruition for them. I think the takeaway is that everyone, especially if you're in the public eye, need to make sure that you're doing everything ethically, as ethically as possible, and you're not withholding any information, and you're going to have people looking at you, so they need to make sure that they're walking straight and narrow.
Absolutely. And of course, you talk about that. That's always evolving, but does it affect your store in any way?
Not really. We're, NRA is there, for everybody, for us, gun stores and, obviously, gun owners. So it's I'm an NRA certified, instructor. We got, most of our instructors are NRA certified, so they provide a good service. They're recognized by pretty much, I think, every state and union as far as their academic program and certifying instructors. So a lot of good is done, where a lot of folks, again, mostly on the left, don't realize that. And the whole thing is about firearm safety. And so I would say most people know you're not going to get rid of firearms in this country, and the biggest thing is to make sure that gun owners are safe, are educated on the proper use of the firearm, And then that goes with knowledge of your local legal system, whether that the state that you live in or the locality, and they push all of that. So nothing really bad to say. Again, as long as everyone's on the up and up.
How important is it for people, do you recommend, does your staff recommend, for them to get to the range once they buy a gun for the first time?
Well, it's like anything else. If you buy a guitar and you don't practice it, you're never going to learn to play it. And you buy a firearm, and if you don't practice, that's the same thing. You're never going to learn how to properly use it. It's not so mechanical. It's a one-time deal. I can tell you, this is the proper stance. This is the proper hold for the firearm, and you simply line this sight up with that and put it on the target and pull the trigger, and boom, you're an expert. It doesn't work like that. It takes practice. It takes a proper instruction. As anything else, muscle memory is there, but knowing those basics where you're going for, you've got to keep that in the back of your head. So if you don't practice what you want to use as a tool, if you don't practice it, if you ever need it, you're going to be doing something wrong, which may cause you great harm. So especially if you're carrying a firearm for self-defense. Most people, if you're doing just, target shooting and you don't have a concealed permit, you're not carrying the firearm, even then you're target shooting to become, good. The goal is to get, all your shots, in that bullseye area. Well, there's a proper procedure to do that. And it will change somewhat, depending on the type of firearm, the size of the firearm, size of you, size of your hands, that you were fitted with a proper firearm to start with. So it's not you come in and buy a gun and shoot it. Yeah, people do that. I get it. That's mostly some of the bad folks, and some that just don't fully understand what it takes to be competent and responsible with a firearm.
Absolutely. Talking to George McClain from the Marksman, Greg Bicouvaris. Glad you're with us. Sports Scene with Greg Bicouvaris on the Audacy app and wherever you get your podcasts. George, you had a lot of great gifts during the holiday season that are in stock. Are they still available now? Some trinkets or little items people can buy for their firearms.
Pretty much, accessories. That's what's mainly in the store. Well stocked with firearms right now, but the accessories are fully stocked. So come in, take a look. Especially ladies, you're looking for a pocketbook, something that's made for carrying your firearm. We've got those in stock. Trinkets, like you say, some jewelry issues is made from shell casings and this type of thing. Not something you're going to find at Walmart or something like that. So pop in, kind of take a look around, see what we have.
George Ken, our producer, has a question for you as well.
Hey there, George.
Sure. Hi, Ken. How you doing?
Good. I'm good. Good to talk to you. Happy New Year. I just became a gun owner recently and took an introductory course, and I was surprised at the amount of recoil on a .38. How important is gun size as far as grip is concerned for maintaining control when you're shooting?
Well, that's an excellent question. Having not met you in person, I don't know how what your size is, size of your hands, and this is when I say the proper fitment, and what I was just saying before. You need everyone, you as well, but everyone needs to when you pick up a firearm or you're going to buy a firearm, but you want something that's going to fit your hand, and then keep in mind this. The heavier the gun, the less what I call perceived recoil, which is what you're going to actually feel. The less perceived recoil there is with a heavier gun. You buy a lighter gun and a larger caliber, you're going to have quite a bit of recoil. And this gets into where we recommend, don't go, buying a firearm where you've never shot. You're probably not going to be able to shoot the one that you're buying if it's a new firearm. Shops just don't do that. But we have several rentals. And so if you want to come in and you want to buy a .38, a .38's got a pretty good kick to it.
That makes a lot of sense.
so you may want to go in and rent, like at the Marksman. We've got 38 revolvers that you can rent, and go in and shoot. May not be the exact same model 38 that you're wanting to purchase, but it's a 38, and you can get like the snub nose up to the full size, and you're going to be able to tell the difference in the amount of recoil generated by the different size firearms. And with that experience, now you're better educated to go and choose a 38 that you like, that is the amount of recoil that you can handle, that fits your hand. So this is what we recommend to everybody, regardless of the caliber that you're buying. It could be a 380 F45, 38, 357 Magnum, all the same thing. Especially if you've never fired one before, you need to rent. Take just a few minutes. You don't have to go out and spend an hour on the range, but just go out and squeeze off a few shots and see if you can handle that recoil. Women, for the most part, and I don't mean to sexualize anything, but smaller guys, same thing. And I say women because most are smaller than most of the guys, and the husband sometimes will come in with them and say, "Well, my wife wants to buy a 45." And I'm like, "Well, has she ever shot a 45?" "Well, no." "Well, then you don't really know if she wants a 45. And here's the thing: if you buy a firearm and you're not comfortable shooting it because of the recoil or whatever, you're not going to practice with it. And it goes back to the guitar example I just gave. If you don't practice with it, you're never going to learn it. If it hurts you to shoot, guess what's going to happen to that gun? It's going to get tucked away someplace, and you're never going to become proficient because you don't like the gun because it hurts when you shoot.
All right, George. Well, thank you, and thank you for talking to Ken and I both. And, of course, you enlighten us, like always, each and every month at the Marksman Firearms Training Center and Indoor Shooting Range, open Monday through Saturday. Like them on Facebook. Go take a class. Learn about it. The wonderful staff will greet you the minute you walk in. 757-872-4130. George, we look forward to talking to you in February.
Stay safe.
You too, my friend. Thank you so much. George McLean from the Marksman. Want to thank TGI Fridays in Chesapeake at 110 Volvo Parkway. Thomas and his great staff taking care of customers 7 days a week in the most pleasing atmosphere. Excellent appetizers, salads, wings, ribs, burgers. There is something for everyone at TGI Fridays, 110 Volvo Parkway in Chesapeake. Give them a call at 757-549-6100. Open daily for your pleasure, lunch, dinner, late night. It's at TGI Fridays in Chesapeake.
Sakura Japanese Restaurant in Chesapeake is your destination for excellent Japanese food, featuring fresh sushi and hot dishes prepared in the kitchen for lunch and dinner. Sakura is located at 1437 Sam's Drive at the Walmart Way Crossing. Oh Yummy Sushi is at the Renaissance Place at 401 North Great Neck Road in Virginia Beach. Both Sakura in Chesapeake and Oh Yummy Sushi in Virginia Beach are available with DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub, and Pickup. Tasty Japanese food the way you want it is at Sakura and Oh Yummy Sushi.
A tradition of excellence for over 50 years is the Aberdeen Barn Steakhouse in Virginia Beach. Start your experience off with she crab soup, an assortment of appetizers such as the fried oyster Rockefeller crispy calamari, just to name a few. Aberdeen Barn has the finest premium steaks, prime rib, grilled tomahawk ribeye, seafood, chicken, pasta dishes, and live music in a most pleasing atmosphere. Open daily. Visit them at 5805 Northampton Boulevard in Virginia Beach. Call 464-1580 and log on to aberdeenbarn.net.
Want to thank our guest today, Sports Scene with Greg Bicouvaris, our January 2024 edition. Happy New Year to everyone. Want to thank our guests, Tony Lombardi and George McLean. For more, log on to gjbtv.com. Click the YouTube link on the homepage. Sports Scene with Greg Bicouvaris is available on the Audacy app and wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube and social media. For Ken Carson, I'm Greg Bicouvaris. We'll talk to you soon.